Before we dive in, if you love epic tales of war, strategy, hit that subscribe and like button, turn on notifications, and join our growing legion of warriors. Now, let's begin. Imagine this. A fleet, long forgotten, drifting silently in the void of deep space. Its hulls, once gleaming with the promise of war, are now scarred relics of a past conflict erased from history. For millennia, these warships have remained hidden, trapped within the gravitational pull of a distant dead star, locked in a slumber so deep that even the most advanced scanners in the galaxy failed to detect them. But something has changed. Across the cosmos, long-range observatories register an anomaly, an ancient distress signal, one that predates even the oldest human colonies beyond Earth. At first, no one believes it. Humanity has long since moved past its first great wars among the stars. The empires of old have collapsed and reformed, their histories rewritten by the passage of time. But then, more signals emerge. The patterns are unmistakable. Military-grade encryption from a bygone era carrying the signature of the Terran Dominion, a name that no longer exists in any official records. The warships of that era were presumed lost, wiped out in battles so catastrophic that even their wreckage was thought to have been consumed by the void. Yet the signals continue, growing stronger. And then, without warning, the fleet awakens. Across the cold expanse of the Ulysses Drift, an immense vessel flickers to life. Massive, silent, and imposing. Its hull is a patchwork of ancient battle scars and unbreakable alloys. Its weapon systems hum with energy, thrusters reigniting as though no time has passed. Its name, once feared across the stars, is now displayed, in crimson lettering along its side, Nemesis Prime, the flagship of a fleet that was never meant to return. To understand the terror behind this awakening, we must go back to a time when humanity faced annihilation. 5,000 years ago, during the height of Earth's first great interstellar expansion, the Terran Dominion ruled as an emerging power. Ambitious, relentless, and ever-reaching, it spread across the stars, founding colonies on distant worlds and establishing its foothold among the galactic giants. At first, diplomacy held. Treaties were signed. Borders were respected. But not all species welcomed humanity's rise. Then came the war against the Zelnari, a species so advanced, so ruthlessly efficient in warfare, that they considered humanity nothing more than an infestation to be eradicated. With technology centuries beyond Earth's finest warships, the Zelnari descended upon human space with terrifying precision. They burned colonies to the ground, glassed entire worlds in hours, and executed planetary purges that erased billions of lives in an instant. Earth's defenses were shattered. The surviving colonies begged for aid, but reinforcements never arrived. The Dominion, once mighty, teetered on the brink of extinction. But from the ashes of defeat came a desperate plan, the creation of the greatest war fleet in human history. Project Revenant. It was a gamble unlike any before. Every ounce of knowledge, every classified experiment, every forbidden weapon was poured into these warships. The result? A fleet of nightmares. Dreadnoughts the size of cities carrying weapons capable of tearing entire moons apart. Frigates armed with rail cannons that could fire projectiles at nearly the speed of light. AI-controlled corvettes, each equipped with self-replicating nanite swarms designed to devour enemy warships from the inside out. The warships of the Revenant fleet were not designed to merely fight. They were built for annihilation. Every captain sworn to their command knew one unbreakable truth. If they fell, humanity would vanish. There would be no retreat, no surrender. And so, they launched one final desperate campaign, the Silent Reckoning. The details of what happened in that battle were never recorded. The only certainty was the outcome. The Zelnari, a species that once ruled vast portions of the galaxy, vanished overnight. Their homeworld was reduced to radioactive debris. No survivors, no remnants, no records of their civilization beyond what existed in human archives. And then, as quickly as they had risen, the Revenant fleet was gone. The warships, the commanders, even the AI-controlled tactical systems, they all disappeared. Official reports claimed that the fleet had been lost in the battle, destroyed alongside the Zelnari. But whispers among classified circles told a different story. The fleet had not been lost. It had been sealed away, hidden, locked in a remote sector of space set to remain dormant, unless the time came when humanity needed them again. And now, for reasons unknown, that time has come. Merchant ships passing through the edges of the Ulysses Drift begin reporting strange encounters. Ghostly silhouettes of massive warships, their hulls blackened with age, moving without known propulsion. Automated distress beacons flickering in the depths of space, calling out in languages that no longer exist. Anomalous energy readings, enormous bursts of power surging from seemingly lifeless wrecks. At first, it's dismissed as spatial anomalies, remnants of ancient battles long past, but then, the first confirmed sighting. A patrol vessel, the Star Hunter 12, is the first to make direct contact. Their sensors pick up a gravitational disturbance, unlike anything seen before. At first, it looks like a derelict station, until the light shifts, and they see it. An enormous ship, impossibly large, its structure defying modern design principles. It bears markings in an ancient dialect of Terran Standard, its registration partially obscured by battle damage. But the name remains visible: Nemesis Prime. The crew barely has time to process what they're seeing before their ship's communication array is overridden. A transmission breaks through, ancient encryption, scrambled through layers of code no longer in use. It takes minutes to decrypt, the ship's onboard AI struggling to process the signal's origin. And then the message plays. A voice, distorted, mechanical, yet unmistakably human. It echoes through the vessel, chilling the crew to their core. We return, then silence. Within moments the warship begins to move. Its colossal frame ignites with raw energy, and one by one, the other ships in the sector follow. The Revenant fleet is no longer dormant. It is awake. And if the stories of their last war are true, that can mean only one thing. Something, somewhere, has triggered their return. And if this fleet was built for vengeance, then the galaxy is about to learn what happens when humanity's ancient wrath is unleashed. The awakening of Nemesis Prime was just the beginning. Across the Ulysses Drift, ancient warships, silent for millennia, begin to stir. Their engines, long thought dead, pulse with newfound life. Energy signatures surge to dangerous levels as forgotten reactors flare back into existence. The Revenant fleet, once dismissed as a myth, is no longer a ghost story whispered among historians and conspiracy theorists. It is real. And now, it is moving. But moving toward what? As deep space observatories scramble to make sense of the anomaly, humanity's ruling powers are thrown into chaos. The United Terran Confederacy, the largest governing body of human space, initiates emergency protocols. Fleet Command deploys scout vessels to investigate the signals, though the very idea of encountering ships from a lost era sends shivers through even the most seasoned officers. What if the legends are true? What if these ships are not just remnants, but something far worse? The fear is justified. Within hours of Nemesis Prime's emergence, automated defense satellites along the rim territories detect multiple warships breaking through the outer edges of human space. These are not modern ships. Their designs are archaic yet eerily sophisticated, their hulls carrying the unmistakable marks of war. Every scan reveals the same thing. These ships should not be functional. Their technology predates humanity's current military capabilities by thousands of years, yet their weapons are fully operational. Their shields, despite their ancient design, withstand scans that would typically penetrate the strongest modern defenses. Then, they do something impossible. They transmit on a classified military frequency that has not been used in over 5,000 years, a channel that should have been long forgotten. And when the message finally deciphers, it is a single command, simple, direct, and terrifying. Awaiting final orders, the Confederacy is paralyzed. Who, if anyone, has the authority to answer? The old Terran Dominion, which had commanded these warships, is long gone. The empire that built these ships, the officers who once led them, all erased by history. And yet, the fleet remains loyal, waiting for orders that no living human can give. But then, a second signal appears. This one is not from the Revenant fleet. It is coming from beyond human space, far beyond. It originates from a dark sector of the galaxy where no known civilizations exist. A sector labeled on ancient star charts as Exile's End, a forbidden region said to be the final battleground of the war against the Zelnari. No ship has returned from that void in recorded history. The signal is complex, layered in encrypted sequences that defy modern decryption methods. But when an old Dominion AI core is retrieved from deep storage and tasked with interpreting the transmission, the truth is revealed. It is a distress call, but not just any distress call, one issued by the Zelnari themselves. The name alone is enough to cause alarm. Officially, the Zelnari were wiped from existence in the final battle against the Revenant fleet. Their worlds were reduced to rubble, their fleets obliterated by the full force of humanity's last stand. No survivors, no remnants. That is what history tells us. But history, it seems, was wrong. The decrypted message, though barely comprehensible, suggests that something survived in the Exile's End. Not just a remnant of the Zelnari, but something else, something worse. And the Revenant fleet heard them. In an instant, the mystery of their awakening becomes clear. They were never lost. They were waiting. Their final mission, unfinished. Their purpose, incomplete. The Revenant fleet was not just built for war. It was built for vengeance, for extermination. Their war was never over. They had merely been locked away, set to awaken only when the enemy revealed itself once more. And now, it has. The implications are staggering. If the Zelnari are truly still alive, hidden beyond the galactic void, then the greatest war in human history was never truly won. It was only delayed. And the Revenant fleet, the last surviving relic of that war, has reactivated to finish what it started. Within hours of intercepting the distress call, the ancient warships begin moving in unison. Their destination is clear: Exile's End. They are answering the signal, but not as rescuers. They are returning as executioners. Panic spreads through the Confederacy. Do they stop the fleet? Can they even stop it? These ships operate on forgotten technology, using systems that defy modern engineering. Their weapons, untested for millennia, are still active, still primed to unleash destruction beyond imagination. And if their mission remains unchanged, then humanity may be on the verge of reigniting a war that was meant to stay buried in the past. But there is another, even more disturbing possibility. What if the Zelnari's distress call is not what it seems? What if something else is waiting in the void? Something that neither humanity nor the Revenant fleet is prepared to face. The Revenant fleet does not hesitate. As soon as the distress call is deciphered, the ancient warships change formation. They break from their stationary hold over human space and accelerate toward the void. Their movement is precise, coordinated, as if guided by an unseen hand. There is no communication, no delay. They have received their call to arms, and they intend to answer. For the United Terran Confederacy, this is an existential crisis. The High Command watches in disbelief as the once mythical fleet prepares to leave known space. There is no telling what will happen if these ships reach Exile's End. But there is one undeniable fact. These warships are humanity's most dangerous relics. If they go unchecked, they could trigger a conflict the galaxy has not seen in over 5,000 years. And so, the Confederacy makes its decision. A strike force is assembled. The best pilots, the most advanced warships, an elite fleet tasked with intercepting the Revenant fleet before it reaches its unknown destination. The mission is clear: stop the ancient fleet at all costs. But stopping them proves impossible. The Confederacy's flagship, Vanguard Eternal, leads the charge, its cutting-edge weapons locking onto the largest of the ancient battleships, Nemesis. Prime, a warning is issued. Stand down, or be fired upon. The response comes instantly. We are the last line of vengeance. Stand aside or be erased. Then, before Vanguard Eternal can react, the Revenant fleet demonstrates why it was once feared across the stars. Nemesis Prime does not fire traditional weapons. Instead, it shuts down the attacking fleet with a pulse of energy so advanced it renders every modern ship powerless. Engines flicker out, Shields collapse, targeting systems fail. It is not an EMP. It is something far more sophisticated. A complete override of every active system. The Confederacy's strike force is left drifting, helpless. The pilots and commanders watch in horror as their warships, some of the most advanced ever built, are reduced to little more than floating wrecks. This is not technology. This is supremacy. The Revenant fleet does not engage further. It does not destroy its attackers. Instead, it moves past them, ignoring them entirely, as if they are beneath notice. For the first time, modern humanity realizes the truth. The Dominion's warships were not just weapons. They were gods of battle. And now, they march toward their final crusade. The dark history of exiles end, while the Revenant fleet advances. Deep space historians and military analysts work frantically to piece together the forgotten history of exile's end. Ancient records tell of the war between humanity and the Zelnari, a war so devastating it nearly wiped out both species. The Zelnari were not just an alien civilization. They were an empire that once dominated vast regions of the galaxy. Their downfall came when they attempted to eradicate early human colonies, viewing humanity as a dangerous, uncontrollable threat. But the Zelnari underestimated the survival instincts of the human race. In response to near genocide, the Old Dominion created its ultimate war fleet, the Revenant fleet, designed not just for war, but for total extermination. This was not a battle for conquest. This was a battle for survival, and humanity won. Or so history claimed. The final records of the war state that the last remnants of the Zelnari were destroyed at exile's end. But now that a distress call has emerged from that forbidden region, doubt is creeping in. Did some Zelnari survive? And if so, why did they wait 5,000 years to send a distress call? The more intelligence analysts study the signal, the more disturbing the truth becomes. The distress call was not sent to humanity. It was sent to something else. Something buried deep within the exile's end. Something that even the Zelnari fear, the nightmare. Beyond the void, the Revenant fleet crosses the last known border of human space. It is now traveling into the abyss, a region of space untouched by modern civilization. The deeper it moves into the void, the more powerful the energy signatures become. Sensors aboard distant observation stations begin picking up something massive. A structure, no, a graveyard, of ancient warships, both human and Zelnari. Then, a new signal emerges. This time, it is not a distress call. It is a warning, and it does not come from the Zelnari. It comes from something beneath the graveyard of ships. Something that has been dormant for thousands of years. Something that should never have been awakened. The Revenant fleet does not stop. They have received the call, and they are ready to finish what they started. The Awakening of the Forgotten War. The Revenant fleet descends into the abyss, where no modern vessel dares to tread. Scanners aboard the few surviving deep space probes reveal a sight that defies comprehension. A battlefield frozen in time. For 5,000 years, the wreckage of human and Zelnari warships has remained untouched, orbiting a dead world known only in lost records as Exile's End. The once mighty vessels, now twisted and shattered, float in eerie silence, locked in a war long forgotten, but something is stirring beneath them. As the Revenant fleet reaches the edge of the graveyard, an ancient presence reawakens. Sensors aboard Nemesis Prime register a new energy source, one unlike anything seen before. It is not artificial. It is not mechanical. It is alive. And then, the abyss answers. A pulse ripples through the wreckage, a shockwave of unknown origin. The dormant ships, those wrecked vessels that should be nothing more than cosmic tombstones, suddenly begin to move. At first it seems impossible. Their hulls are shattered. Their cores are dead. Their weapons were stripped away by time itself. But still, they rise. Fragments of metal begin to realign. Damaged structures regenerate, as if reversing the destruction of war. A force beyond human or Zelnari understanding is pulling these ships back together. And then, from the center of the graveyard, it emerges, a warship unlike any ever recorded in human history. It is larger than even the Dominion's greatest battleships, a behemoth of shifting metal and pulsing energy. Its hull bears no recognizable insignia. No known faction has ever claimed its design. It is something else. Something built by neither human nor Zelnari hands, and it has just awakened. The betrayal of the Zelnari. The Revenant fleet holds its formation, scanning the impossible entity before them. The Zelnari distress call led them here, but the Zelnari are nowhere to be found. And then, the truth becomes clear. A new transmission is intercepted. It is not a plea for help. It is a command. From the dark corners of the battlefield, Zelnari ships decloak. They were never in distress. They were waiting. The distress call was a trap. For 5,000 years, the Zelnari have been hiding, watching, waiting for their ancient enemy to return. They knew humanity's lost war fleet would come once the signal was sent. And now, they have lured the Dominion's greatest warriors into the heart of a battlefield, where they are surrounded. The Zelnari do not speak. They do not negotiate. They attack. Their weapons, upgraded over millennia, burn through the blackness of space, piercing the Revenant fleet's formation. Plasma lances strike the hulls of the ancient warships, igniting explosions that send debris scattering into the void. But the Revenant fleet does not falter. These are not ordinary warships. They are not bound by the limitations of modern combat. They are something else entirely, and they are furious. The wrath of the dead. The first retaliation is immediate. Nemesis Prime, the largest and deadliest of the Revenant fleet, unleashes a weapon unseen in the galaxy for millennia. A cascade of blue fire erupts from its forward batteries. Not plasma, not lasers, but something far older. The Zelnari ships caught in its path do not explode. They dissolve. It is as if their very molecules are being unraveled, torn apart by an energy no modern science can explain. This is not just destruction. This is erasure. Across the battlefield, more Dominion warships engage. Fury's Requiem, an ancient cruiser with a hull blacker than the void, moves through the Zelnari ranks like a phantom, its weapons tearing through enemy shields as if they were nothing. Judgment's End, one of the few remaining dreadnoughts of the Old Dominion, fires a single salvo, and an entire Zelnari battle group vanishes in an instant. The trap has failed. The Zelnari believed they had outsmarted humanity's lost fleet. But how do you kill something that has already died? The behemoth awakens. As the battle rages, something changes. The behemoth, the impossible warship at the heart of Exile's End, begins to move. It does not fire weapons. It does not deploy fighters. It simply exists. And yet, its presence alone alters the very fabric of space around it. The wreckage of ancient warships, both human and Zelnari, begins to shift toward it, as if being drawn into its mass. The Revenant fleet pauses. Even in the heat of battle, they recognize something is wrong. Nemesis Prime scans the behemoth. The readings make no sense. The warship is not a construct. It is not built. It is grown. And then, for the first time in over 5,000 years, the Revenant fleet transmits a message, not to humanity, not to the Zelnari, but to something else. We remember what you are, and we will not allow you to awaken. The battle is no longer about revenge. It is no longer about old wars. The Revenant fleet has come here for a reason, and it is not to fight the Zelnari. It is to finish what the Dominion started, to destroy the thing beneath Exile's End. The Forgotten Horror. Beneath Exile's End, as the Revenant fleet locks weapons onto the behemoth, the battlefield itself begins to shift. A force beyond human understanding has begun to stir. The Zelnari, once so confident in their ambush, now hesitate. Their ships reel back from the behemoth, their weapons falling silent as they scan the impossible entity before them. They have realized their mistake. The trap they set for humanity has backfired, not because they underestimated the Revenant fleet's power, but because they have awakened something far worse. From deep within the ruined world of Exile's End, a signal pulses through the void. It is not artificial. It is not a transmission. It is a heartbeat, and it is growing stronger. The ancient war that no one survived. Nemesis Prime's command core flashes with encrypted warnings. data files that have not been accessed for 5,000 years. The Dominion's last war against the Zelnari was never supposed to end in a simple retreat. The Dominion did not flee into the void because they lost. They fled because they discovered something they could not defeat. Long before the Revenant fleet vanished, before the final battle at Exile's End, humanity uncovered a terrible secret, buried beneath the ruined world. The Dominion called it the Abyssal Seed. The Zelnari had found it first, an entity buried beneath the planet's surface, dormant and waiting. They did not understand what it was, so they tried to control it. But it was never meant to be controlled. It was not a machine. It was not a weapon. It was something that should not exist. It devoured their fleets, absorbing their technology, their biomass, their very essence. And when the Dominion arrived, it began to learn. For centuries, the war against the Zelnari had been simple, tactical, strategic, a contest of power between empires. But when the Abyssal Seed awoke, everything changed. It corrupted ships, repurposed fallen warriors, twisted the very laws of physics to serve its growth. The war became a slaughter, not between two species, but against something that existed, beyond life itself. Humanity realized too late that it could not win. But rather than allow the Abyssal Seed to spread, the Revenant fleet made the ultimate sacrifice. They did not just retreat. They sealed themselves away. The Revenant fleet was never lost. It was quarantined. The last great warships of the Dominion were filled with the knowledge, weapons, and power necessary to finish what had been started. They were locked away beyond the reach of the galaxy, waiting for the moment the Abyssal Seed would awaken once more. And now, that moment has come. The wrath of the Abyssal Seed. A distortion ripples through space. Time itself warps around the behemoth as reality bends under the weight of something that should not exist. The Revenant fleet reacts instantly. They have faced this horror before. They know that hesitation means death. Nemesis Prime transmits a single command: initiate final protocol. The Dominion ships respond in unison. From their hulls, ancient mechanisms activate. Weapons built in. The last desperate days of the Dominion's war flicker to life. These are not conventional munitions. They are not plasma cannons or railguns. They are annihilation engines, each one designed for a single purpose: to erase the Abyssal Seed from existence. The first shot is fired. A lance of searing white energy rips through the void, striking the behemoth dead center. The effect is immediate. The ship, if it can even be called that, howls, not in sound, but in a distortion of space itself. The battlefield trembles as if reality is being torn apart. But the behemoth does not die. Instead, it begins to change. The ship's structure warps and bends, metal flowing like liquid, reshaping itself into something new. Then, it speaks. Not in words, not in language. It speaks through the void itself. You are too late. A wave of black energy erupts outward. The nearest Dominion warship, Fury's Requiem, is consumed in an instant. There is no explosion, no debris. It simply ceases to exist. The Abyssal Seed is no longer awakening. It is awake, and it is hungry. The Revenant fleet's final stand Nemesis Prime moves with impossible speed, repositioning as the Abyssal Seed fully manifests. The battle is no longer a war. It is a struggle for survival itself. The Revenant fleet fights with everything they have. The Dominion's forgotten warships unleash destruction unseen in the modern galaxy. Ships fold space itself to evade destruction. Weapons punch through the fabric of reality, tearing apart the corrupted monstrosities the Abyssal Seed has begun to create. But it is not enough. The Abyssal Seed is adapting. For every blow humanity lands, it learns. For every weapon fired, it counteracts. It is no longer just consuming the battlefield. It is rewriting it. Nemesis Prime issues the final command. All remaining ships, execute Omega detonation. We end this now. The Revenant fleet's core ships, the last relics of a dead empire, begin to glow. Their reactors, each one built with an impossible failsafe, begin to collapse in on themselves. A weapon greater than any single explosion, greater than any supernova, is about to be unleashed. A cascade reaction that will erase the abyssal seed from existence. The Dominion built these ships for this moment. The Zelnari, realizing what is about to happen, flee. They were fools to awaken this terror. Now, they want no part in its destruction. But the Revenant fleet does not run. This was their purpose, their mission, their final stand. The countdown begins. 10. Nemesis Prime transmits one last message. Not to humanity, not to the Zelnari, but to the stars themselves. We were here, we fought, we remembered. 9. The abyssal seed screams as it realizes what is happening. It tries to flee, but the Revenant fleet will not allow it. 8. The final ships brace. 7. The void itself trembles. 6. Nemesis. Prime's reactor reaches critical mass. 5. The abyssal seed strikes out in desperation, consuming the last remnants of the battlefield. 4. But it is too late. 3. The Revenant fleet has already won. 2. A final transmission echoes through the galaxy. For humanity. 1. The battlefield disappears. A flash of light, brighter than 1,000 dying stars, engulfs Exile's End. When it fades, there is nothing left. Not of the abyssal seed, not of the Revenant fleet, not of Exile's End. Just silence. But somewhere, deep in the void, a single distress signal remains, and it is still waiting for someone to find it. The galaxy reacts, a nightmare. Realized, the silent void left in the wake of the Revenant fleet's sacrifice does not go unnoticed. Across the galaxy, sensors flare to life, detecting the impossible energy signature left behind by the final detonation. At first, it is dismissed as an anomaly, a stellar event, a dying pulsar, perhaps the remnants of a failed experiment from a forgotten empire. But then, the reports come in. The Zelnari High Command receives a transmission, one they should never have received. It is a fragment of Nemesis Prime's last broadcast. We were here, we fought, we remembered. The words repeat again and again, across every Zelnari military channel, bypassing encryption, ignoring firewalls, appearing in places where no human signal should ever reach. It is a warning. The Zelnari, once so confident in their supremacy, are now terrified. They did not merely lose a battle. They did not merely fail to wipe out humanity's ancient remnants. They unleashed something beyond their comprehension. And the worst part? They do not know if it is truly gone. The last witness, a survivor's horror. Unbeknownst to the Zelnari, the final battle at Exile's End was not completely silent. There was one last observer. One ship caught in the abyss of the battle, unable to escape before the Revenant fleet made their sacrifice. A Zelnari reconnaissance vessel, Spectral Veil, had been running silent, hidden among the wreckage. Its crew had watched in horror as the abyssal seed manifested, as the Revenant fleet unleashed devastation beyond reason, as reality itself bent and twisted in the final struggle. And when the Revenant fleet activated Omega detonation, the crew thought they were doomed, but they survived. Barely. Their ship was caught in the outer edges of the blast, engines destroyed, life support failing, left adrift in the remains of a battlefield that should no longer exist. But something else survived with them. The crew of Spectral Veil was not alone. Their distress, calls went unanswered, their emergency systems disabled by something unseen. Their oxygen levels plummeted, their reactor flickered and failed. Then the whispers began. At first, just static over the ship's communication systems, fragments of garbled words, voices that should not be there. Then, the shadows started, moving. Something was inside the ship. The crew, panicked and desperate, sealed off sections of the vessel, but the entity was already everywhere. It did not attack them. It did not make a sound. It simply watched. One by one, the crew began to lose their minds. They clawed at their own throats, gasping for air even as the ship's life support was restored. They screamed of visions, impossible structures, writhing shadows, a hunger beyond reason, and Then, one by one, they disappeared. No blood, no bodies, just empty spaces where they had once stood, until only one remained. A lone Zelnari officer, shaking, terrified, clutching the ship's final transmission beacon in his hands. His name is Varesh Kul, and he is the only living soul to have looked into the abyss and survived. The signal that should not exist. Days pass. Varesh Kul does not sleep. He does not eat. He does not move from his seat, staring at the console before him, the only source of light in the lifeless ship. The ship's systems are still offline. Yet, despite this, a message appears on the screen. Not in Zelnari script, not in Dominion code, but in something else, something older. It is not over. A cold terror grips his mind. He does not know who sent it, but something deep within him tells him. The abyssal seed is not truly dead. The Revenant fleet sacrificed everything. They unleashed their final, ultimate weapon. They erased Exile's end from existence. But something survived. Something that should not have. And it is waiting. Varesh Kul reaches out with a trembling claw, activating the last functional part of his ship. A distress beacon, not to the Zelnari, not to any empire, but to the one force that might still be able to understand what has happened. The last remnants of humanity. He does not know if they will answer. He does not know if they are even still out there. But as his vision fades, as the darkness around him seems to breathe, there is one truth that echoes through his mind. The war is not over. It has only just begun. The echoes of war, a galaxy, forever changed across the galaxy. The events at Exile's end send shockwaves through every major power. The Zelnari Dominion is in chaos. The destruction of the abyssal seed should have been impossible. The Revenant fleet should have been a myth. Yet, both were real. And now, the Dominion's War Council is paralyzed by a terrifying realization. They are no longer in control of history. For centuries, they had sculpted the galaxy's fate, erasing entire civilizations from the annals of time, rewriting the past to serve their supremacy. But now, an ancient force they had long buried has risen again. The Revenant fleet may be gone, but their final battle has rewritten the future. Their sacrifice was not just a moment of defiance. It was a warning, a signal to the void, a message whispered across the ruins of time. Humanity's vengeance is not finished. A dark secret, within the Dominion within the highest halls of the Zelnari leadership, a secret meeting takes place. Only the most powerful figures are present. Those who have seen the truth. Those who understand what was truly lost at Exile's end. One of them is High Strategist Virak Khan, the architect of the war against humanity. His once cold demeanor is gone, replaced by something darker. Regret, not for the destruction of humanity, but for what they failed to destroy. A holographic projection flickers in the chamber. It is the distress signal from Varesh Kul, the lone survivor of the spectral veil. His final transmission is incoherent, filled with maddened ramblings. But through the static, one message is clear. We were wrong. The void remembers. The shadows breathe. It is still here. The Zelnari warlords do not speak. They know what this means. The abyssal seed was not just a weapon. It was something older, something buried in the deepest annals of their history, something they had hoped to erase along with humanity. And now, it has woken up. The silent fleet, a forgotten army, returns far beyond the reach of the Zelnari. In the dark spaces between galaxies, something stirs. A lone station, long abandoned, flickers to life. It is one of the last remnants of humanity's hidden colonies, long thought lost in the wars of extermination. For centuries, it has drifted silently, powered down, unnoticed by the great empires. But now, the station awakens. Lights flicker. Systems reboot. Ancient databases churn to life, processing encrypted data packets that have been waiting for a very specific signal. The final transmission of Nemesis Prime. Deep within the station's core, a new directive is issued. Not a distress call. Not a cry for help. but an activation order. Across the void, long-dead warships begin to awaken from their slumber. Their hulls are old, scarred by time, but their weapons are still primed, their purpose still intact. These are not the warships of the Revenant fleet. These are something else. A second wave. The contingency plan for a war humanity never had the chance to finish. The Silent Fleet. And their time has come. The final whisper. A fate. Unsealed back in the Dominion's war chambers, panic begins to spread. The Zelnari were prepared to wage war against a weakened, scattered enemy. They were not prepared for this. A war machine still intact. A force older than the Dominion itself. As reports flood in, one final revelation shatters. What remains of their arrogance. The Abyssal Seed's destruction did not just awaken old weapons. It sent a message beyond the stars. To something else. Something that has been waiting. In the darkness between galaxies, something is answering the call, and this time, humanity will not fight alone. The final thought, a galaxy on the brink. The war that the Zelnari began centuries ago was supposed to end in total annihilation. Yet now, as the echoes of exile's end ripple across the stars, the truth is undeniable. Humanity's vengeance is not over. It has just begun. The final battle is coming, and this time, the galaxy will burn. The end. For now.